Alright, so Michael, the new Michael Jackson biopic is out. It came out a few weeks back, and this is the type of movie where I wanted to watch it twice before I reviewed it, because I watched this one the first time, and as someone who's not a crazy Michael Jackson guy, I really enjoyed the movie, and I found myself really liking it. I found myself switching up the playlist on the way home. We put MJ on, and I was thinking, right, I've got to test this a second time to make sure that I liked it as good as I did, and yeah, I did. So Michael the Biopic stars Jafar Jackson as Michael Jackson, and the film follows him primarily from a young child with the Jackson 5 up until around 1988, where he goes off on his own on his bad tour. And straight out the gate, we're going to talk about the same thing which everyone's been talking about. Let's talk about how good Jafar Jackson is as Michael Jackson, because, geez, some of these scenes, you're going to think that you're watching Michael. Jafar smashes it out of the park. Not just with the choreography and the dance moves, but embodying the shy nature of the Michael Jackson character, kind of getting a lot of the mannerisms and the way that he would go about his day-to-day life actually correct and pretty much down to the letter based on what we know. I think that it's very fair to say that Jafar did a lot of study, but also a lot came naturally to him, obviously being a part of the family. But I imagine this was no easy task to go up and play this role. I think he smashed it out of the park. However, we have to talk about Coleman Domingo as Joseph Jackson, because boy oh boy, if there was ever an act which I think would deserve a supporting role nomination, it would be this act right here. Coleman's performance is the type of performance that you love to hate. The guy is an absolute brutal, egotistical, self-centered jerk throughout the entire movie, not only to Michael, but to his family, to his wife, and Coleman absolutely smashes it out of the park. I haven't heard enough people praising his performance, because especially on the second time, you really begin to notice the ins and outs and the little intricacies behind the performance, and really conveying an absolute just jerk of a human being. It goes well beyond the family at this point. Bro's just a jerk. He's selfish, loves the money, and Coleman embodies that completely, and I wouldn't want anyone else playing him in the movie. Say that those two are probably the most noteworthy performances. Getting on to the movie itself, I do really love the time that we do spend actually with the Jackson 5 at the beginning of the movie. I think that it really helps in the overall theme of showing the childhood which Michael Jackson never got. And ultimately, one of the first scenes in the film is him actually looking out, watching children playing. Meanwhile, he has to stay in and rehearse. I thought that was a really powerful scene, one which left me as I left the movie theater, and you really begin to see under his father's influence and the influence of the industry, even though a lot of the industry professionals are actually quite nice to Michael, which is something which I really appreciated. I do like how we get the characters like Miles Teller. We get at the beginning of the movie other characters who interact with Michael are actually quite nice to him. Yes, they have something to gain, but it does show the industry from a more positive lens rather than the self-eating jerk lens that we do see, which is primarily honestly captured by his father, which represents that side of the industry. So you do get the two halves there, which I did appreciate. But the movie does do a great job of showing that Michael was ultimately on a different route to other children, and that while he got the fame and everything, it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and doesn't prefer the little moments, whether it's with his animals, whether it's with a friend at the time, but he clearly does like those little moments, and the movie really does do a great job at expressing those. Even if it's like there's a scene where he's in a shop and there's a kid there. His mother's obviously an MJ fan, but Michael plays the Atari. The kid comes up with the Atari. They're just talking about the Atari and nerding out about that, which is a really cool scene. It does go into a bit of a humorous moment with the mother there, which you can see for yourself, but just the little things like that was something to really appreciate about the movie as well. The performances and set pieces and the music videos and everything they do around the music itself is honestly breathtaking. It's got some of the best musical sequences I've ever seen on film, and seeing it in the cinema elevates it to a whole new level where you got the surround sound, the big screen, you know, a lot of Michael Jackson fans in the theater at once. So as someone who's not massive on Michael Jackson, it really is a bit of an experience when you're seeing these things happen on the screen. It makes it a lot more immersive, and they've shot really well. I didn't feel like the camera angles or anything were disruptive. I feel like the actors and dancers, performers on the screen actually were pulling their weight, and the camera wasn't trying to disguise what they were doing. I think that it was all very well rehearsed, well put together. The music video scenes like the Beat It one and Thriller were awesome to see. Going through the intricacies as well, even with Michael in the Thriller telling them to actually move back so they can get the feet, little things like that really help elevate the film to height of authenticity compared to something which we would find in a fiction movie perhaps. I do think that the film could have spent some more time in certain parts of Michael's life, particularly in the late 70s. I feel like there would have been more of a gap there between the 70s and 80s, which could have been explored. I understand the film obviously has to get to the 80s because there's a lot that happens during that era for Michael, but I think the Off the Wall album, while it's not swept under the rug, there are definitely scenes from that album. I feel like they could have gone into it with more depth like they did with the Thriller album. I think it kind of got left on the cutting room table a little bit, even though we do get a few scenes with him recording, performing and that sort of thing with that album. I think there was more to say, which probably wasn't said in the end. Ultimately though, with Michael, I don't think you can walk away from this movie not having a good time. I'm not really a big Michael Jackson fan, as I said, and I came away with the movie absolutely loving it. I thought it was a fantastic biopic for what it was trying to do. I think it shows the good and bad to the music industry and being in it, having a controlling father who obviously wants one thing while the performer wants another. You can obviously transfer that to record label managers and anything in that sort of realm as well. I think it did a good job of doing that, showing the childhood and the side of things which can be taken away from you as you progress up in stardom. Don't get everything that other kids do get, so it is a good and bad kind of scenario there. I think it does a good job of showing that. Performances were killer, music pieces were fantastic. Do wish it spent a little bit more time in the 70s, but that's alright because the 80s stuff that it showed was so damn good. Rewarding ending, lots of great emotional pieces in the movie as well. Performances killed it. I'd say go watch Michael. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I didn't expect much going into it. Came out, a fan of the movie. Loved Michael Jackson's music on my playlist on the way home. So yeah, got to give it a thumbs up for that. So definitely putting out a recommendation for this one. As I said, go see it a couple times if you like. I saw it twice and had just as much fun, if not more, on the second time. So great pick, great movie. I'd recommend it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe for more videos coming soon. Been a little slack on the review game lately, but planning to get right back into it. And if you did like the movie, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.